5 flats are bad. Okay.
No, 5 flats.
You like 5 flats?
Easy to play.
Not for guitars.
I was gonna say whatever instrument maybe, but not the violin.
You got that right.
Pick your instrument.
Pick your instrument, yeah, and with you know, the B flat instruments are very
Then
very
you have
happy.
all the black keys you're playing. So that's next week.
All she does is plays the black keys. That'll work. That'll work.
Well, because if you have 5 flats, that's what you do.
Well, I mean.
The fingerings are just get funky on a
On
lot of
the guitar.
instruments. Yeah. Okay, so I want to make sure that this word is clear. This is Prokeimon.
I like that Pokemon.
Prokimenon. Okay, prokimenon. Prokimei. It's kimei. This, I want to make sure because the word comes from specifically pro, for, and to lie outstretched. But the word means to lie before the view. The lie before the view. And I put it in, I don't remember if I had that proper thing in bold last time. So to lie before the view. And we went over this last week, but I want to make sure because we're going to hit it this week. We're going to be there. And this word is really interesting. Agona. So, agona. Okay, there's the agora, right? That's a marketplace. But there is the agona, agon. And that means a place of assembly. And you see what it says? It says by implication. Now, okay. I just want to talk about by implication just a little bit. What you find in Strong's and Vines a lot is, you know, it'll give you this explanation. It'll say, and I give it right from Strong's and Vines, right here. This is from Vines. So, agona, from ago, a primary verb. I put that all together for you. Property to lead by implication, to bring, to drive, to go, pass, whatever. And then it means properly a place of assembly, as if led. By implication, a contest held there. And that's correct. By implication, a contest held there, which is good. So, and agona be specifically, you know, if you went to the Olympic Games, right? So, why did they do the Olympic Games?
To honor the gods.
Yeah. Why do they do plays? Greek plays?
And tell the story about the gods.
Well, it wasn't necessarily the story about the gods, which is really interesting because that's what it became, right? Well, they don't teach this anymore, I don't think. You guys know about the mystery plays, right? They still do some mystery plays. Like, what is it, in Germany? There's that place in Germany?
Yeah, it's
The
Oberammergau.
But did you know that mystery plays were done like throughout Christendom for like millennia, for like 1,000 years, right? And all the early plays that were written down in English or Anglo-Saxon or Latin or French were mystery plays. You know where it came from, right? It's the Greeks. Because, yes, sir?
What is a mystery play?
A mystery play. Wow. I'm sorry you have to ask that question because it is so indebted in Christian history, and it's the history of all our art. And I don't mean that in a negative, because I'm happy to answer the question, because I think it's a very important question. What happened is the Greeks did these plays, right, to honor the gods. And what they did is the plays were not, well, the plays always included the gods somehow. You guys have seen Antigone, you've seen Euripides, you've seen Rex, Oedipus Rex, right? You've seen those, and there's always a god in those, right? Sometimes the god is a deus ex machina or whatever, but the plays were written not about the gods, but for religious purposes, because they were contests. What happened was when Christianity took over the world, the Western world found that the Greek plays were wonderful ways to extend the gospel. Because what did they have? They had a Bible in their hand, right? Everybody had a Bible in their hand to carry around, right? No. They had scrolls originally, and then finally somebody got this great idea to invent the codex. And the reason the codexes were invented was to put the scrolls, to cut the scrolls, and put the scrolls into a book form. which is a new invention, right? It was the Gospels and Christianity that did that. But at the same time, they had missionaries, right? You remember the missionaries, all the guys, missionaries, what's his name, Patrick, right, going to Ireland. There's sagas about the missionaries going to the Norwegians, to the Icelandic people. All across Europe, these missionaries went from the Catholic Church. And even the Catholic Church, they had absorbed, remember the Hellenization of the world? So they had absorbed this Greek play thing, and everybody, they want to go to plays. So what's the best way to extend the gospel? Show them a play in their own language, right? Because what was the Mass? John Chrysostom, 300 BC or AD, invented the Mass, well, 352, something like that. He invented the Mass. The Mass was in Latin. It may have been in Greek too. Well, actually, John Chrysostom's Mass was in Greek. John Chrysostom originally did the Mass in Greek, but very quickly the Catholic Church, well, the Roman Church, they were doing it in the words of the people, and the people were the Roman Empire, and so you were expected to know Latin. So they did the Mass in Latin. Well, the problem was when they went to the Germanic tribes, to the Italian tribes, the outliers, right? Because Rome was a city-state. They went to the French, the Gallic people. They went to the English people. How do you convey the gospel to them? Because the Mass is in Latin, right? Or Greek, if you go in the other direction, to the Roman, or to the Russians. The way they did it is they said, you know, this Greek play construct, and no one thought this through. They just said, let's do this, right? Because they were used to it, right? It was just part of the common thing they did in their society. So let's do plays. And so in English, you get the classic. You guys probably never heard it because the three, I'm not going to say it. It's a play that they never let you read because they didn't like the title. But that word in Anglo-Saxon doesn't mean something bad. It means you're dirty. They were covered with dirt, which is also because of Monty Python. That's why Monty Python got that little joke. That comes from this, because this is a classic Anglo-Saxon mystery play. And the mystery play is about the shepherds, the three shepherds who went to the manger. Yeah! And so this was a mystery play that set three Anglo-Saxon shepherds going to the manger. And it's a wonderful play in Anglo-Saxon. They don't let you read because they didn't like the title. And probably from the Victorian era, they kept the title quiet. But it's a mystery play. And there are many, 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 many mystery plays, from the Oberammergau ones in German to the Anglo-Saxon ones that we don't ever hear because they're Anglo-Saxon and nobody cares. But they became English mystery plays. As a matter of fact, we have a great, in English, we have, well, nobody ever talks about the plays before Shakespeare, but there are a bunch of plays before Shakespeare. You know why they don't talk about them? They're mystery plays. God forbid that you have children learning about the Christian mystery plays. And by the way, the reason they call them the mystery plays is because it came out of the Mysterions. Yeah. All this is connected in history. All this is and you say, well, why didn't they tell us this stuff, right? I think it's mainly because the mystery plays reflect Christianity. And there is a huge, the number of mystery plays in Italy, in Italian, right? In common Italian as opposed to Latin are astounding. Because it was, there were troops. As a matter of fact, the mystery plays may have brought about the middle class. Not maybe as much as the trades, but the mystery plays had a huge effect on the middle class because it created a class of people that moved. entertainers, Christian entertainers that move from place to place to collect money for the mystery plays. So our modern idea of entertainment basically came from the concept of the mystery play, which led to opera, which led to Shakespeare, which led to almost every modern concept. And as a matter of fact, in Shakespeare, you find so many touches of mystery plays, it's astounding. It's obvious he knew all of them. So, yeah. But the point is that this agona, it's not just, and the thing about implication, okay? You notice in the Strong's, or in the Vines it says, by implication. Okay, what do we know about Greek? Greek is concrete. When it says by implication, a contest, the thing that's important to note is what kind of contest did the Greeks have? They were gymnasium dwellers. They had contests not just in running, string, throwing javelins, discuses. Their Olympics also included plays,
The arts. Yeah.
poetry,
Music.
right? Well, yeah. To them, poetry and music were the same thing. So bring a love donation, bring. Well, kind of like that, right? What's that?
Video games.
Video games, yeah. If the Greeks could have done it, it would have been video games. But what we forget is why was Nero so mad? Do you remember? Do you remember why Nero was so mad?
Didn't they make fun of him in a play or something?
He tried to compete at the Olympian festival in the poetic odes, right? Bring Dionysus. And so, but what he did is, okay, it's Nero, and the judges are the Greek priests of Olympus, right? Whoever they chose. We don't know who they exactly chose, but it's probably the oracle and the Greek goddess, or the Greek priestesses and the Greek priests, right? And so the Greek oracle is like, but it's Nero. So how are you going to vote?
For Nero.
Right? 10, 10, 10, 10, right? And yet afterwards, everybody was joking about his bad Greek and his terrible, he didn't have his lines weren't proper. And so he got really irritated by that, because behind his back, people were saying, oh, yeah. And as a matter of fact, I don't think any of Nero's poetry has ever come down to us. I mean, the Greeks thought it was so bad that nobody wrote it down, right? And he probably couldn't write it down himself. Just saying. So, anyway. So Nero, part of the problem with Nero that ended up, remember, he died before the destruction of Jerusalem, but he originally ordered the containment of Jerusalem, what do you call it, where you surround the walls?
Siege.
The siege of Jerusalem. He originally ordered that, and then it was the next Caesar that, and they always thought that Nero was going too far, right? Fiddling while Rome burns, but that was another issue. So my point is this. When we see that, like, okay, the King James, not just King James, NIV, King James, what's his name, the big translator in Geneva, Martin Luther, I don't care who they are. If I say to a German society, contest, they're not thinking of the lottery, what are they thinking of?
Yeah.
Running, jumping, right? If I say that to the English, they're thinking arrows, right? So you have to be careful, because historically it may be the implication of a contest. This is an assembly for a contest. But in reality, the assembly for a contest is assembly for a mystery play, right? Or for a Greek, they actually call them mystery plays, that the Mysterions put on, but the Greek contest for the plays, the Greek contest for the arts, as well as the Greek contest for what we consider the Olympics. And it's really funny that our Olympics has nothing to do with arts. The Greeks would say, you're nuts.
Did you know that Baron Pierre de Coubertin tried to do
Yes.
that in the beginning?
He did. He tried to do it, and for some reason, the modern era rejected it. Yes, I know that, and it's a sadness, because you think that the arts would be very important, right? Mm.
It was always halftime at, the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah!
Bringing art into sport.
In the closing ceremonies, right? Right, the beginning of ceremonies, yeah. Yeah, but you can, what do you call it? You can CGI all that stuff nowadays, so you don't have to worry about it, right? And we know that the poetry is no good. So, we finished chapter 11, and yeah, party. That was the Pistis chapter, the persuasion chapter. I just want to remind you, and I left it up there, the second verse is assigning a reason. In this, the members of the Israelite Sanhedrin became a witness. And I want to reinforce it with 40. The 40 was, and this was our translation, God looked out beforehand at some stronger of us in order that through all over we could complete, not at a space. In other words, we could complete the fact that they were witnesses. Witnesses to what? Witnesses to Jesus Christ. And so we go into chapter 12. All right. There's a problem in translation. You notice we started Hebrews, and they had this beautiful word, angelion. Angelion. Let's see, what was the word? We had the one for the, I'm thinking about the word for the bearer of the word. So they translate it all over the place. Sometimes they translate it as pastor, and sometimes they translate it as angel, and sometimes they translate it as angel, and sometimes they translate it as bearer, okay? And you go, why don't you stick to it, right? Why don't you just translate it one way, not the other? And then we get the gospel, the angelion, right? The gospel, we get that translated all kinds of ways. The word, the message, the this, the that. I'm like, what? And then we get to the pistis chapter. And pistis means to be persuaded. There's no word in Greek for faith. Not the way the English word is. And I told you why the English word was kind of chosen. I think it's mischosen. But what you've done is, through this whole Logos to Telos, you've driven us down a translating path. Right? And so when you get to the end, what do you got to do? If you've been running down this translation path the whole way, what happens? I either got to stick to what I got, and we know at the beginning they didn't know what they got. I mean, they're all over the place. And then we get kind of some, resolution throughout the chapter, but you notice how some really meaningful stuff kind of gets lost or left out? Well, let's see what happens. Let's see how our translators go. Therefore, since we are surrounded by, this is chapter 12:1. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Okay, I want to point out a couple of things, and this is just the NIV, but notice it says, you notice what I told you right at the beginning. Okay, we had assigning a reason. In this, the members of the Israelite Sanhedrin became a witness. And at the end, we found out that the witnesses, who is the cloud of witnesses? Well, you have those in the past, from Abel to Rahab, and then you have the unmentioned, unspoken, David even, Saul,
David's in there.
You have, what's that?
His name, David's name is in there.
Yeah, well, they name him, but he doesn't get a whole lot of,
Yeah, I didn't get
In a list.
He's in the list. So you have the directs, right, from Abel to Rahab, and then you got the list, and then you got the not so, the reminders, right? And then you get the end part, which says, basically refers back to the beginning. Because the cloud of witnesses is not just those.
It's the present people too.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the point. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, well, let's see what it says in the Greek. It starts out, wherefore is to garon, truly for then. This is a logical form. So what we did is we have the whole of chapter 11 going to, is that a stated telos? Is that really, it's 40 a stated telos? Not really, right? It gives an implication, but it doesn't say, you know, it's more of a continuation of the logos, right? Because remember, we don't expect it stated telos. But look what it says in chapter 12:1. It says, to garon, which means truly for then. This is a logical form, meaning we wish it was therefore, right? Because what's the therefore? What does that mean? And you remember?
The conclusion's coming.
Right. It means there's a conclusion, therefore, right, in English. But the Greeks would have said, what are you using delta for? We don't ever tell you what the conclusion is. They would have probably said, this is our therefore, right? We're not going to tell you. But look what it says. Truly for then, this is a logical form, seeing is added, we, it's himus, it is himus, it's we. It's no kidding, we, emphatic. This is something we miss. Remember, I told you, the Greeks rarely use the emphatic form. I or we, us. These are not used, but it's right here. We got a himus, we, and it's not. Also, it's kai. It's and are compassed about. It doesn't say that. It says to hold. It's to hold. Peri kami. What they did is they took two verbs that are echo and peri kami and put them and crunched them. Remember I told you this? You got to watch out for this, because when they start taking words and they start messing with them, because hold peri kami means to lie all around, right? Or to, see what I tell you specific means. Specific meaning is lie before the view. Lie before the view, lie all around. So to lie before the view, lie all around, and it also is a parallel with 40. There's a peri in there too. Peri kami, echo, peri kami, to hold, to lie around, with so great, toto sotus, so vast is this. So vast is this. Okay, great. So vast as this is kind of different. A nephos, a cloud of martus, a witness, witnesses. Let us is added. Lay aside is not lay aside. Well, it's apotitomai, to put away. Let us put away. Pass all. And you know, we don't have a word like pas in our language, but pas means everything, all everything. Weight, ogkos, a mass. This is an interesting word. Ogkos means a mass. And what it means as a sense, okay, so I should probably give you this word, a word of a day, but if you load up, you know, this isn't a mass like a human weight, what a human could carry. If I take a cart and I start to load it up, and I get it heavier and heavier, what eventually happens to the cart? Well, it'll start, the wheels, you know, the axles and the wheels. This means literally a bending or bulging because the load is so heavy. Cool word. Okos. And kai, the is added. Harmantia, missed the mark. Which, it's ho, which or that, that'll work. Hos is probably better, but which or that. Doth so easily beset. Eper istaitos, good or well standing around. Wait a second. Doth so easy beset. How did they get from oi per istaitos? Let's see. EU peristatios. That means means, let's see, Perry. Perry means, got my notes here. Perry means, where's the, Perry means, Perry, fully good, Perry from the base properly through, and statos is stimi, that means to stand. Good through to stand through good. Stand through good. Doth so easily beset. Just saying, they're really begging on that one. Us is added, and is added. Let us run. It's tracho, run or walk hastily, rush. With dia, dia is through. Also word meaning through. Through hupenomo, patience. It says patience, but hupenomo is not patience. Huponome. Huponome means cheerful or hopeful endurance. Maybe patience. The ho is correct. The agon, the place of assembly. You notice what they did? They took a place of assembly and immediately threw the word race into it. Now, it's a contest, but if I even use the word contest, I get a little problem, just like we talked about. That ho is set before prokimei, to lie before the view. Us. Haman. They use a dative form of us. They use an emphatic again. This is really interesting because remember I told you, in the Greek, we don't use the emphatic. It's rare. So when they use the emphatic, what are they telling you? This is really, really important. I'm pointing. I'm thumping you on the chest, right? I'm pointing to you because I'm using an emphatic form. So therefore, here's the literal. Truly for them, in a logical form, we emphatic, and are held lying all around, so vast is this cloud of witnesses, put away all amass, as a bending or bulging by it loaded, and miss the mark, which good or well standing around, rush through cheerful or hopeful endurance, the place of assembly, a contest that lies before the view by us. So you say, well, what does this mean? All right, I'll give you a little, I'll boil this down a little bit of translation. Truly, assigning a reason then, and hold us surrounded by this vast cloud of witnesses. Put away all burdens and miss the mark, which by good standing around we rush through the place of assembly with hopeful endurance that by us lies before the view. Okay, so we can parse this, we kind of get this a little bit, right? So truly, this is a conclusory statement. As a matter of fact, the writer is introducing to us that the next, and remember there's no chapters, right? But the next set of statements is a conclusory statement that refers to what? Last chapter or what? The whole of the book of Hebrews. So we don't usually get a conclusion in Greek. The Greeks would probably say this isn't a conclusion, but guess what? We aren't writing just to Greeks. We're writing to the Romans, the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Hebrews, and, well, whoever else just happens to be there. And there's a lot of folks there in Alexandria, right? So why might I put a conclusion?
For everyone who's non-Greek.
Yeah. So we're going to say too?
Well, no, Jesus always said truly, truly. Is it the same translation that?
No, it's not. And matter of fact, when Jesus said truly, truly, he never truly, truly, right? Did he ever give a conclusion? I mean, go back to, there's a couple.
A couple of times he said, okay, you guys are so stupid, I need to tell you.
Yeah, a couple of times he did. But you know, more times than a couple that he did that, I remember him saying, just give them another parable. And they're going, oh man. Can you see him thinking, should we ask him another question? If we ask him another question, what is he going to do? He's going to give us another parable. And we won't understand that one either, right? And somebody's back there writing it down. It's like, okay. I'm just saying, this Greek is really funny, right? And the Greeks don't like to give a conclusion, but you notice, this kind of, truly assigning a reason then, and hold us surrounded by this vast cloud of witnesses. So in other words, you know, we can take from the rest of the paragraph, you know, the rest of the statement, right? The thing is, they are in an agon. They're in a place where people are gathered. They're gathered, right? Remember they said the episynagogue, you know, you can include all the areas that they are. Truly assigning a reason then, and hold us surrounded by this vast cloud of witnesses, which we already said, presumes those that were mentioned in the Pistis chapter, and those that, well, not just them. In the Pistis chapter, I got this. Assigning a reason, this is the members of the Israelite Sanhedrin became a witness. So it's not just those, well, the Pistis chapter included the Sanhedrin, the now Sanhedrin. And guess where the now Sanhedrin is?
Alexandria.
Alexandria, yeah. And there are probably, I bet you there's members of the Sanhedrin that are there, that are in this group of people, whoever they are, right? Probably Hebrews, right? So you have the group of the Sanhedrin. So they are surrounded by this vast cloud of witnesses. Beautiful. This is imagery. And, okay, the Greeks aren't into imagery like this. Where did this imagery come from? Anybody familiar with enough with classical literature to kind of pick this out? The Hebrews don't write like this. The Egyptians don't write like this. I know these were about pretty much one other choice.
Yeah.
Anybody read the Aeneid? The Aeneid? Remember that one of the most famous statements of the Aeneid was when they walked down the beach and the birds, their wings clapped. They do, because their wings come together at the top and they actually hit the top of their wings. But the Greek, they use the terms, the wings clap together, and then associate that with the gods and with the heroes in the Aeneid. This is a Latin method. If you ever read Latin poetry, if you can stand to it, no, there is some good Latin poetry. So, you know, the Latin poetry is full of this kind of stuff. And by the way, that comes into our poetry, because most of the people writing Anglo-Saxon and English poetry, and German poetry for that matter, we're all writing based on this kind of method. So, cloud of witness, put away all burdens and miss the mark. I think this is really interesting. Put away all burdens and miss the mark. So, you're not supposed to stop trying for the mark, but put away
Your
not
past
just
failures.
Yeah, the burdens, all the burdens. And what kind of burdens do these guys have? They've been kicked out of Jerusalem. They've come all the way with their family. They're trying to find a way of life. They're trying to figure out what they're doing. So it says, put away all your burdens and miss the mark. And miss the mark. So don't worry about that. Which by good standing around, we rush through the place of assembly. Okay, this is really important. By good standing around, we rush through the place of assembly. The place of assembly is a place where they do the plays, they do the poetry, and they do the gymnasium, they do the running races, right? How do you rush through? By standing all around. Do you see what this is implying? They're not talking about racing. They're doing, it's a Greek irony. Which of the groups, they got poetries and plays and the running sports or the javelin sports, which one of those are doing good standing around? The arts. Speaking, right? Right? Speaking. Now, there's a real difference, because in a symposia, and I think they didn't use the word symposia on purpose. They used the word agona instead of symposia. What do you think it would have meant if they used the word symposia? Yes?
Would it have implied more of a debate?
Both a debate and something else. Because do you stand in a symposia?
You lay down and you eat.
You lie down and you eat and drink. In an agona, you may be eating and drinking because you're, part of the, you're in the stands or you're whatever, right? You're buying peanuts. Peanuts and beer, right? And hot dogs, yeah. So at the Agona, you may be getting peanuts, beer, and hot dogs. But the point is, if you're standing around, are you in the stands?
Probably not.
You're participating, right? You're participating. Put away all burdens and miss the mark, which by good standing around we rush to the place of assembly. So that's an irony. With hopeful endurance that by us lies before the view. What lies before the view? What's the Epiuranos? The heavens. The place above the heavens. The place of God, right? So by the way, this goes way back. Remember the beginning of Hebrews? It talked about the Epiuranos, it talked about the Uranos, it talked about the place where you were going to be with God, and God was preparing a place for you, right, in the heavens, and the temple in the heavens, and et cetera, et cetera. So this all goes right back in. Very complex, very, very complex logos to telos kind of form. Like I said, what I also want to mention is, number one, the surrounded by a cloud provides the view by us, not with us or for us, but it's dative. It's at us. The cloud of witnesses allows us to see the view. It's another irony. Right? A cloud, what does a cloud do? Obscure. But it's a Greek irony. So they're using the term a nephos, a cloud of witnesses that allows you to see the view. And also, where are the clouds? They're in the sky. Anyway, I mean, this is beautiful stuff. We put away our burdens and miss the mark to achieve good standing around. That's multiple explanation or multiple understandings. It refers directly to speaking with other people, putting away our work or concerns and our miss the mark to participate in the community. Because if you participate in the community, what happens to the gospel, the evangelion? Is spread around. So this is, remember at the beginning I told you in chapter 10 and chapter 9 specifically, the whole point was stop going to the temple. Stop just staying in your homes. Stop going to the episynagogue and, commensurating. This is the statement. This is the point of all of Hebrews. The point is, get out into the community, forget about the things that were past that you screwed up in, forget about all that, and just communicate the gospel to the people. Ask them, remember they said ask questions. If you don't understand the Greek, ask your Greek neighbor, right? That's the point. I think it's beautiful. I mean, think about this. So I go to my Greek neighbor and say, hey, I don't understand, I've got this, they didn't really carry around writing in their hand. But if you went to your Greek neighbor and say, I don't really understand this statement, this verse or this thing I heard, right? Because they memorized a lot of stuff, right? Can you explain it to me? What are you doing?
They're gonna read it. They're gonna see it.
You're spreading the gospel by asking questions that you need to know the answers to, right? It goes further. Let's see, and there's a couple in here, Maccabees, 4 Maccabees, I don't know if I put it in there. Maccabees 16:16, my sons, noble is the contest to which you are called to bear witness for the nation. Fight zealously for our ancestral law. That's for 4 Maccabees. 4 Maccabees 17:10 through 15, they vindicated their nation, looking to God and enduring torture even to death. Truly, the contest in which they were engaged was divine. For on that day, virtue gave the awards and tested them for their endurance. The prize was immortality in endless life. Elzer was the first contestant. The mother of the 7 sons entered the competition, and the brothers contended. The tyrant was the antagonist, and the world and the human race were the spectators. Reverence for God was victor and gave the crown to its own athletes. I didn't parse this from the Septuagint. I could have. If I did, I think what's really interesting about this is this verse specifically points to a contest where you're standing around. That is verse 1, which completely negates the concept of like it's not saying you shouldn't do your exercise program. Keep your exercise program going. But what it's saying is there's no need for you to compete that way. The competition is a competition of the suke, right? And we'll get even more of that. So let's look at 2. Go to 2. I gotta look through my notes here. Okay. 2 says, and by the way, I will say, I think the NIV is a terrible translation of that verse. I think it's a very, very complex Greek statement, and that they completely missed the point. Yes, sir.
You mentioned that it's very unusual that they use the we, the emphatic here, but after the long chapter 11, that was just narrative about by faith Abraham and by faith Saul and Rahab, and sort of setting the stage. But here suddenly the authors are saying, do something.
Yes.
We switched from, we're giving you all these background and here's something you should think about, but now actually do something. And I wonder if that's one of the reasons the emphatic is kind of a wake-up call that, okay, we told you all about this other historical stuff, now get out there and do this.
Yeah, like
I mean,
you
it
need
seems to
to be
shift
one of these.
into an action mode rather than we're trying to fill you in about why you should do this.
That is perfect, and that is precisely what is happening. And don't let me forget that, to remind you of that, because as we look at every single statement that comes into 12, many of them have been, I don't like to use the word mistranslated, they're misconstrued. They're misconstrued to give an impression that, as I said, if I've created an impression through the whole of the document, and now I want to keep my translation going, right, on the same line, that's what I do. On the other hand, if I look at the Greek and I say, what was the Greek about, right, and then look at the translation, I think you'll find that that is precisely correct, what you're saying. Every statement from now on, from the beginning, right, is what you should do. And yet a lot of the way it's written is what is going to be done to you, or what is being done to you. I think I'll show you an example. So look what it says here, beautiful. In the NIV it says, let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Let's see what this says in the Greek. Okay, looking. Aphoreo, to consider intently. I think it's really interesting because it isn't looking, it's consider attentively. Okay, you can say that's looking, but consider attentively. Looking is with my eyes. And figuratively in English, it can be, I guess, looking with my mind. But the Greek is consider attentively. In other words, with your brain, your suke, right? Your sarx. And this will really come to play in this verses. Suke and pneuma. So your sarx, suke, pneuma. We're talking about suke. Consider attentively unto, ice or into, Jesus, ho, the chief leader, the arche leader. I don't know why I didn't put that word in. I got the word in here someplace. And kai, finisher. Teletotes, completer. We know about telos, right? A completer. Of is added, our is added. Pistis, our persuasion. Who, hos, who, for, anti. The word is anti, opposite. Everybody knows what anti means, right? Anti doesn't mean for. Anti in Greek means opposite. So why they put for anti? Opposite, the, does there, joy, chara, charis, joy, the grace, the cheerfulness, that, ho, and what I want to point out is, they say joy, but chara, usually when I have charis, or chara, I put down, charis is grace, right? That's okay, joy is all right, but usually, if you want to be consistent, you might say grace, or joy in grace, or something like that in our English language. That ho, the, was set before, prokimei. They use the word again, prokimei, to lie before the view. Him, autos, himself, endured, hupe mino. Hupe mino. Hupe mino It's not hupenome. We had a hupenome. You notice the hupi words are kind of important. This is hupomino. Hupomino means to stay behind. This is that word we had. You know, the ascendancy thing? So-and-so is ahead of so-and-so, and so-and-so is ahead of whatever. Hupomino is that. So this is to stay behind, you know, have a, you know, not authority over, but to be protected by. The is added. Staros, a stake or post, so a cross is a good translation. Despising. Katopherone. Katopheroneo, to think against. Despising, to think against. Close. The is added. Shame. Ashuna, shame or disgrace. And, it's not and, it's te, which means both or also. What is important about te? Te is both. And remember I told you, te, both is a pronoun. Do you know that? In English, it's the only beta pronoun we have left. In Greek, there are still beta pronouns, which means two. It can mean also, but it is both. It's a beta pronoun. Beta, I or we. I is one, right? We is plural. You is the second person. In English, we used to have the beta form. So it was, I don't know what it was. It's probably like day or something like that. Day meant me and my shield brother. Me in a beta form, all warrior societies had a beta form. So Greek had a beta form, Anglo-Saxon had a beta form, but it means me and my shield brother. And both is the last remaining pronoun from the beta form in English. Let's see, te, both, and also is set down. To seat down. Kataizo, to seat down, at, in, at. The is added. Dexios, the right hand or hand of the throne, the thronos of the theos. Now here's the literal. I know it's going to be hard, but here it is. Consider attentively into Jesus, the chief leader and completer persuasion, who opposite the cheerfulness, the grace that lay before the view himself, stayed under behind a stake or post, thinking against shame or disgrace, both or also to seat down in the right side or hand of the throne of the God. So here's a translation. I'll just kind of squeeze this together a little bit. Consider attentively about Jesus, the chief leader and completer of persuasion. All right, this is really important. This is really important. Consider attentively about Jesus, the chief leader and completer of persuasion. What did we just do? We had a whole chapter about persuasion. What did the author just tell you? Who's the completer of all that?
It's all about
Jesus. Yeah, it's all about Jesus. Forget about the other stuff. This is all about Jesus. I mean, this is it. The completion. The completer of persuasion, who opposite the grace that lay before his view. That opposite the grace that lay before his view. In other words, he was in the epironos. He was God, right? He is God. But opposite that grace that lay before his view, himself remained under a cross, thinking nothing of the shame, both to sit down in a throne at the right side of the God. This is really beautiful. You know, we always like to say that Jesus sits down on the right side of the throne of God. This says that he's sitting in the throne of God. What does that imply?
He's God.
He's God. I think this is beautiful because, you know, think about this. Okay, Greeks do not like figuratism. This is a concrete concept. So how do two people sit down in a throne, right? The thrones are not made. You ever seen a throne from this era? You know, you ever try to sit down in one? Some of them are wide enough for you, the modern posterior, but a lot of them are not. And you go, holy smoke. They are not large because they didn't have the capability to build many of these things. So they're not like a modern chair that will fit us all, right? So when you sat down at the throne of God, here's a picture that Jesus is sitting down with God in the throne, which means they're the same being. Or I mean, you could take the other picture, the Potter picture. He's sitting on his lap.
Yeah, he's the one, that's what I envisioned.
But then he can't be on the right side, so to speak, right? But maybe he's sitting on the lap on the right side. You know, there's beauty in this because, yes, ma'am.
Well, wasn't the right side the power position though? The person with the power?
That is absolutely true. However, remember, you know, you see, that in English, we get this in English because it's come down to us. Because I'm not standing here with a shield on my left arm and a sword in my right. If I were standing here with a shield on my left arm and a sword in my right, you would immediately know what it meant to be on the right-hand side. You're my shield, brother. You're protecting me from the enemy because you have a shield on your left, which means you're willing to take the enemy's attack on your weak side. You get it? It's not figurative. This is completely concrete. And the Greek mind, every Greek soldier, hoplite, and every one of us a hoplite, right, was carrying a shield. They didn't have swords, they had spears. And every Roman soldier is carrying, I don't care if you're left or right-handed, they didn't care. You're always on your left, and you always had it in your right hand, because that's the way you fought. So, yes, it means a position of power, but it's not really a position of power. It's a position of
Protection.
protection.
So
Yeah.
Jesus protecting God
Gee.
in his own way by taking the penalty for sin. That's kind of a beautiful picture.
These are deep. They're indelible. Yes, sir.
My understanding of the word for throne has always been cathedra in Greek. Is there a distinction between thronos and cathedra?
I think cathedra is Latin, not Greek.
Well,
Am I wrong?
it's Greek origin, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked it up, and I don't know if that's in the New Testament or not. Throne is, I don't know about cathedra, so I can't speak authoritatively on that because I haven't seen it and looked at it. I may have to look it up. Maybe look up in Strong's or Vines. But yeah, Mary, how do you spell it, with a K or a C?
Okay.
So it'd be like the Greek K, right? Cathedra. I'll see if I can look that up. Cathedra. That's a good question.
This dictionary, this English dictionary says a bishop's official throne, origin Latin for chair.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Now, chair in Greek, I may have it in here a little bit later. But the most important thing to recognize about this, okay, is, let me read the NIV again. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who, for the joy set down before him, endured the cross, scorning its nature, and sat down on the right hand of the throne of God. The middle part is wrong, because what it said is, instead, that Jesus, the chief leader and completer of persuasion, who opposite the grace that lay before his view, himself remained under a cross, thinking nothing of the shame. The reason they're bringing this up, why are they bringing this up? Because they wanted to do something, right? They're telling this because what did Jesus do? He did it,
He took one for the team.
right? He did it. So the implication is that he's going to tell them to do something. So what are they going to tell them to do? Let's go to 3. I gotta stick through this. On my notes. These are really long verses. 3. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. That's what it says in the NIV. So let's look at this. It's a very long sentence in Greek. It is not short like that in the NIV. 4. Gar, assigning a reason. Consider. It's analogizomai. Analogizomai. Logos, right? Analogos. Analyze. Okay? Maybe it's picking on a word, but so analyze, consider, yes, that's analyzing. You know, I like the logical form better. Him that. It's not him that, it's the. The hupemino. Hupemino. To To remain under. Hupemino. To remain under, or to see what I say specifically, under, hupemino, to stay under, behind. It's not, like I said, this is that word that is really misunderstood and mistranslated. It doesn't mean necessarily to stay under like you're an underling. It also means to stay behind. In other words, to be protected, right? That's the point, to be protected. And such, toi otos, truly this. Truly this, of this sort. That's a logical form. Anti-logia, dispute, opposite logos. Of is under, harmatolos, those who miss the mark. Harmatolos, those who miss the mark. Against, ice, to the point further reached or entered, ice, to. Himself, hoto, himself. Lest, it's henemi, in order that not. Heneme means in order that not. Lest, okay, I guess. Ye be wearied, camo, to toil, camno, to toil. And is added, ek luo, to relax in, it's these, no in there, your human, your minds, your suke, in your suke. Here's it literal. Assigning a reason, estimate the state under behind, truly this, of this sort, dispute, opposite logos, under those who miss the mark, to a point reached or entered himself in order that not to relax in your unconscious breath. Okay, what does that mean? All right, here's the translation. Estimate, assigning a reason, who stayed under this sort of opposite logos, under those who missed the mark themselves, because you did not toil and relaxed your unconscious breath. Your thoughts. Your unconscious breath are your thoughts. Estimate, assigning a reason. So logically, look at this. Who stayed under this sort of opposite logos? What's the opposite logos?
The wrong conclusion.
Yeah. What is the right conclusion, according to this author? The euangelion, right? The euangelion is the correct conclusion. And we have this whole pistis chapter, right? Persuasion. So you are persuaded of the euangelion.
So these are people who are not persuaded, who came to some other incorrect conclusion.
Under those who missed the mark themselves. Because you did not toil and relaxed your unconscious breath. You did not toil and you did not think about it, right? The unconscious breath is thought. And with that, I think our time is up, even though the bell has not rung.
But it rang about
It
20
rang
times
about 5
before.
minutes.
It got its ring out. So let's discuss this next time. Next week I'm going to not be here, so I'm doing a field trip. But the week after. But think about this, because what Rick said was right on the money. This chapter is about what the hearers need to do, right? That is the focus of this entire chapter. Thank you, Father, for your word. Pray you look after us this week. In your name we pray, amen.